before his remains were found, fed to pigs on the family's rental property. Under the sentence, Michael Jones, 46, won't be eligible for parole for at least 25 years. He pled guilty in March to first-degree murder in the 2015 death of Adrian Jones. Michael Jones turned his chair away from Adrian's grandmother, mother and older sister, never making eye contact as they addressed the judge. I could not imagine the pain, but as authorities described as horrific and even haunting, you do not deserve a second chance. Eola, doctor, the late boy's 21-year-old sister, told Michael Jones, who declined the judge's offer to make a statement, "You do not deserve sunlight as a free man." The judge ordered Jones to spend the rest of his life on parole, if he's ever released from prison. His attorney did not object in court Monday to the life sentence prosecutors sought. The boy's stepmother, 31-year-old Heather Jones, pleaded guilty to the same charge in November and to serving a life sentence. She insisted that she felt helpless to protect Adrian and herself from her abusive husband. But investigators said that she also abused the boy during an additional 5 years and 8 months in prison for that. The boy, folks, in case you didn't realize this story or didn't hear about the story, Adrian died in September of 2015, but his death wasn't reported to authorities. His remains were found that November on the family's Kansas City, Kansas rental property after officers learned the boy was missing while they were responding to a report that Michael Jones had attacked his wife at their home. When the charges were filed, Wyandotte County District Attorney at the time, Jerry Gorman, said that it was one of the worst cases investigators had seen. During Monday's hearing, this was yesterday, folks, a police investigator, Detective Stuart Littlefield, confirmed publicly for the first time what was left of Adrian's body was fed to the pigs. Often choking back tears, Littlefield asked for a 20-second moment of silence reflecting the length of time Adrian at one point was shocked by a stun gun during his tortured young life. Adrian's biological mother, Diane Pierce, lost custody of him and two of his siblings years ago. Her mother, Judy Conway, said last week that she had finally brought herself to look at videos and digital photos from the Jones home that showed the abuse Adrian suffered in his life's waning months, much of the chronicled by the more than 30 security cameras set up throughout the home. What horror, what hell. Rest in peace, Adrian. And I'll tell you, folks, I wasn't born Catholic, so I am all for cooking this guy, but no, he's given the luxury to be able to get paroled, or could be up for parole. And he might be on probation or parole for the rest of his life, but he could get out. He could get out. Won't be eligible for parole for at least 25 years. Can you imagine him just getting out after killing an innocent child and abusing a kid? There's so many kids that are abused in this country. It just breaks my heart. But feeding your kid to the pigs, how disgusting. How disgusting. By the way, I do have some happier happier stories. Maybe the guy will just die in prison or somebody will get him. I just tell you, it's just disgusting. I mean, I thought that would be in a Stephen King novel, but no, there's that evil that lurks on this planet, and it's very scary. And sometimes it can be in your own backyard, real close to you. Check this out. What a neat story here. So a mother and a son in a diner having breakfast, and the 3-year-old A 3-year-old. He decides that he wants to have a head start in paying it forward. At 3 years old, he took care of a group of police officers this past Thursday morning. It all happened at the Four Seasons Diner in Northeast Philadelphia while they were eating. That's right. Surveillance video from the inside of this diner is showing Logan, the young boy, taking over money to a group of officers on their break, and he offered $5 to cover their coffee, according to his mom. 3 years old. It was a big deal for me when my son wanted to do that, and it's very touching. So the officers returning the kindness, the 15th District officers posed with Logan for a picture and let him climb into a police car to show him how it all works. Paying it forward. 3 years old. And when I was reading the story, I had a tear well up in my eye. I just thought it was sweet and kind, given all the terrible things that are going on out there with officers getting ambushed and killed. It just seems like almost every day some officer is killed. And some 3-year-old boy decides he wants to take care of an officer's cup of coffee. And I'm thinking, gosh, paying it forward at 3. I wish more of us would be like that, paying it forward. A lot of people, they just they become cynical. They say, oh, you're not old enough to be that, and, you'll feel that way and jaded. I hope never. Hope to be able to feel some things, to experience some things, and want to participate and wanting to give back, because it's the right thing to do. And thank God I know a lot of our audience, you pay it forward all the time and you do the right thing. And God bless you for all of the sacrifice and things that you do to make this world a much nicer place. So let's go to the Koreas. This is kind of an odd story because I thought the North was fishing, but the South is fishing. And what are they doing? Yeah, it's a fishing ship, and they decided, I guess they weren't paying attention apparently, but a U.S. Navy warship, the Carl Vinson Strike Group, collided with a South Korean fishing vessel in the Sea of Japan. I'm not even kidding, today, according to U.S. defense officials. There were no injuries aboard the USS Lake Chaplin, a guided missile cruiser, according to this official. The collision happened portside amid ships, or in the middle of the U.S. warship left side. A damage assessment currently being conducted, and the incident is currently under investigation. American warships and the Vincent Strike Group have been training in the South Korean and Japanese counterparts since late last month. So that's the big doings out there. Of course, no match, Carl Vinson, these big warships for a little measly fishing ship. But man, that's a little close for comfort, don't you think, being able to crash into that big ship? I mean, you could have had an act of terrorism. Remember the coal? You just don't know. You get bad apples on one side. You always get, it could be in South Korea. Doesn't always have to be from the North. Terrorists come in all different forms. Who knows? But how that happened, man. Thankfully, no injuries, which is a beautiful thing. Now, there's a bunch of crap going on. There's always crap going on in the mainstream media. But supposedly Warren Buffett, contention that the Republican approach to overhaul Obamacare is tax cut for the rich. Remember that conversation that I had with that young lady over the weekend? That was one of the things that she was telling me about Warren Buffett sounding off on all these particulars. And he says something completely different. He was on CNBC. We're going to hear a clip from him in just a second here. But Zell was telling him that the GOP approach to health care on taxes isn't for the rich or the poor. You heard it. He said that the measure balances out the system. The House of Representatives on Thursday past week narrowly approved this bill as they approached the bill to repeal and replace Obamacare, a victory for Republican President Donald Trump. So this Republican bill would repeal most of the taxes that paid for the law formerly known as the Affordable Care Act. Nothing really affordable about it. But Zell is a millionaire, has a new book out, and here's a little bit of what he was telling CNBC earlier.
I don't think there's any question that we've gone from an anti-business administration to a pro-business administration. I think a pro-business administration translates into a much more positive environment. So I think I'm much more optimistic. I think that whereas Mr. Obama had to spend $1 trillion to create a half-assed stimulus bill, I think Mr. Trump can repeal $1 trillion worth of regulation, achieve the same objective, really create stimulus and spend no money.
Yeah, it's that he sees it. He's a smart guy, billionaire. And it's very interesting, though, with Buffett's comments about, giving back to the rich and all that stuff. Buffett was saying that rising health care costs are crippling the competitiveness of U.S. companies. Don't you think? Small businesses primarily, but yes, a lot of large companies, but mostly small businesses that comprise tens of millions of companies that otherwise could do great. These medical costs are tapeworm of American economic competitiveness, he said. That is a problem this society is having trouble with, and it is going to have more trouble unless it's corrected. Well, Mr. Buffett, that's exactly what the Republicans are trying to do, trying to fix it because it's been broken. The deal with the pastor, I mentioned that I was going to mention Paula White. I had attended Church Without Walls for a brief period when I was working for Salem Communications. They're a large syndicator of Christian talk shows and conservative talk. And I did a conservative program for about 6 or 7 years here in the Tampa Bay area and did work for SRN News. Whenever there were stories or big stories, they'd send me out to where the space shuttle was launched or when the hurricanes were going out in Punta Gorda. You remember that? Punta Gorda. I was right there on location. 1,200 radio stations as a streamer back then. That was back in 2004. All those hurricanes. God, I hope we don't have a repeat of that anytime soon. That was just terrible, back to back to back. But the president's pastor, Paula White, she was pastor, and then her husband, Ron White, and they've got a divorce since. But I first came into contact face-to-face with Paula when I worked at the radio station. She has a book out called Deal With It. And she was sexually molested as a child, and she was sharing her story of how she dealt with it. And that was the name of the book, the title. And she talked about it and how she was able to, as Schuler would say, take her scars and make stars out of it. But I learned very quickly it wasn't your, can I say, Southern Baptist conservative church. It was more non-denominational. And they definitely, the donations as far as giving was always in the forefront. It seemed like it was more messages about giving to the church immediately to be able to get your blessing, to be able to get things turned around. If you give, you're not going to get. And that's basically what was implied so many different times. And I remember Ron White, saying that, lust is of the devil. And, I caught that guy making out with which looked like a 16, 17-year-old girl in a parking lot on Henderson Boulevard in Tampa at an Outback. But, and he's trying to get back into the ministry. But Paula, she was always very nice. But what we know of them is that, they had this millions of dollar mansions, and several of them the best cars, the best